por el canal 10. Ya lo sabe, el mejor análisis, las historias, los personajes están aquí en las noticias de la noche del Heraldo Televisión. Las noticias donde deben de estar. Acompáñenme a las 10 por el 10.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I am Jen Gaudet, your fearless host. I am an entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. And why are we here? We're here because I believe that together we're stronger. When executives and entrepreneurs link arms and share what's working and sometimes what's not, we're able to elevate ourselves, our businesses, and that ripple effect impacts not just us, our teams, and our families, but also our communities and our world. I'm really excited to be here today because we speak a lot about the importance of human performance and being a peak performance individual in your business, in your role, so that everything else flows from that. And I'm really excited to introduce to studio our guest today, Dr. Susan Kleiner. Dr. Kleiner is an expert in human performance, specifically in the nutritional aspect, but you're going to learn so much today about how to really get into that peak performance so that you can elevate your business and your life. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Susan.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's really a pleasure to be here and see you again.
Likewise, and you heard this show is all about entrepreneurs and executives and how can we really be the absolute best, most peak performing human being in our roles so that everything flourishes from there. And I know that this is your extreme area of expertise, so I'm really excited to hear a little bit about that. So why don't you give us a little bit of how did you get into nutrition, sports nutrition, and peak performance to begin with? And we'll just take it from there.
So my interest really started fairly young. I was a pre-Title IX girl, and if you don't know what that means, it's that prior to about 1974, it was legal for public schools and public institutions to invest only in sports for boys and men. So public universities, public schools, and women and girls were kind of left on the sidelines. My experience in high school was there was a big Olympic-sized boys' pool that said boys' pool on the door, and there was no such pool at all for girls. I could be a swim timer, but there was no swim team for me. And starting at about 5 years old, I became a modern dancer. That was my sport. And I did go all the way to New York and danced in New York City, but then discovered that I really had a curious mind and wanted to go on to college. So health remained a real interest, and I thought medical school was the place to go. And I was very fortunate, and this is probably a topic you talk about, is finding guides and mentors in your life. I was so fortunate that the Dean of Admissions at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine knew me, and at my interview said, "We'd love to have you in medical school. You won't learn anything about what you're interested in. You're interested in health. We teach people how to treat disease. Go talk to the Department of Nutrition." And I was just, oh my God, you're kidding me. There's a whole department of nutrition. And that was my entrance. There was no serious field of nutrition and exercise yet within the field of nutrition. And that was part of my pioneering experience.
And that leads you to quite a body of work. You are an acclaimed published author. You've done so much throughout your career, and you've worked with some of the most elite athletes and executives in the world. So talk to us a little bit about what is it through that evolution and your personal story mixed with everything that you've done professionally. What was it that got you to work with the elite executives and elite athletes of the world?
So I believe that I wanted to achieve peak performance in the lab, right? And I had my subjects and my clients who were athletes. They wanted to achieve peak performance on the court, or I always say in any setting, out on the field, on the pitch, wherever they were. And my executives that I worked with wanted to achieve peak performance in the courtroom or in the boardroom. And we all want to achieve peak performance in the bedroom. So that really takes taking care of yourself. And it is, especially when we want to push out the walls of performance mentally and physically, we need to know and understand more than just good general nutrition for basic health. We have now 30 years of very good data guiding us in the details, getting down into the weeds about what can make a big difference in body and mind.
And so, Susan, that's a lot of data. That's a lot of a huge body of work. If we have somebody watching this or listening to this right now, and they're like, okay, great, give me the nitty gritty. Like, what is one thing I can do today that I can start this process so that I can move towards peak performance in my life?
The number one thing across the board with every client that walks in my door, and to walk in my door, you do need to be exercising. So if you say, I just want to lose weight, but I'll never exercise, that's not my wheelhouse, just to be clear. I know that no one can maintain a healthy life for a lifetime if you're not moving. And so part of my personal satisfaction in my job is to have long-term success, lifelong success. The biggest thing that I find, and people laugh when I say this, is that you have to eat more, not less.
That is so true. And we've talked about this before. For those of you who are watching, Dr. Susan and I have known each other for a very long time. I worked with athletes for many, many years, 20 years in sports medicine before my current iteration and what I do now. But it's really amazing, especially after an injury. And with female athletes, I find even more so than male athletes. Like I'm a physical therapist by trade. And so I would see they would get injured and then they would stop eating because they were no longer on the track or on the court. And they were so concerned about gaining weight and the appearance of gaining weight that they actually wouldn't eat enough to achieve healing even. And that's such a misconception in our society. So how is it that you get people to overcome the misinformation that they need to eat less and be restrictive and get them actually eating more so they're fueling their output? I call it fueling their output. Whether it's mental or athletic output, you have to fuel your output. So how are you able to shift that mentality, that restriction mentality, and get them so that they're consuming more so they're actually able to turn on their metabolic fire and keep their bodies peak performing?
Well, typically the most common area, well, there are two really, that are lacking in the diet typically are carbohydrate first for an active and athletic individual, and then also protein. Mm-hmm. I focus first on carbohydrate, and typically clients are so low in their carbohydrate intake that they are never really exercising to true fatigue, meaning that they haven't worked their muscles as hard as they can all the way to the end of exercise. They just run out of gas. Mm-hmm. And that's where they then maybe halfway through their workout, then they continue to work out, but they never really get the training advantage and adaptation that they could if they could work out hard all the way to the end. The interesting thing about carbohydrate is that you can feel it. If you are underfueled, and you've always been underfueled, you may not know it. That's your experience. But if you go into a workout fully fueled only one time, you will be well aware that you are mentally and physically much stronger doing the exact same workout, and feel the benefit and get the greater benefit of that workout. In fact, I had a client, he was the CEO of a multinational corporation who had been working out for years. And he came to me and he called and he said, I can't waste my time in the gym anymore. I really need your help. And that's what I feel people are actually doing. Never underfuel your training. And so we start specifically around fueling for a training session, making sure that you have consumed, whether it's through food or supplements, what you need for that training session. You have that physical experience, that internal experience that then becomes internally motivating. You want to feel that again and again. And the way I get people to do that is to say, if you do this just one time, do you think this is really going to make you gain fat? Just one time, maybe an extra 200 or 300 calories? Is that really going to make you fat? And my clients, when faced with that question, say, well, probably not.
Probably not. And so once they try it, and then they realize that, oh, okay, if I'm actually adequately fueled, I can maximize my workout. They feel better. They don't exhaust as quickly. And so out of curiosity, when your executive, for example, does that, does it also have an impact in the boardroom as well?
Absolutely. Because if you are fully fueling your exercise, now we know, there's so many levels where this impacts. Certainly, if you get a better workout, there's a whole host of reactions that happen in your brain that enhance our cognitive function, our ability to cope with stress, enhance our mood, all of those kinds of things. At the same time, you're not drawing down your reserves. You're not depleting your fuel sources. You are more well fueled. Now, hopefully, after your workout, you are refueling and replenishing. And if your workout is in the morning, by the end of the day, maybe you have a 4 o'clock meeting or a 3 o'clock meeting. Certainly you've eaten as you've gone on. You are much more awake and aware. You are more fueled. Your brain will slow down. We feel that sense of depletion of energy in both mind and body. And so you will perform better the whole rest of the day.
Yep. And a lot of times we talk about this. This is a huge topic in business. We talk about being a business athlete, right? You have to, as an entrepreneur or as an executive that's leading an organization, you have to be performing at your best so that you can show up, you can make the right decision, you don't have brain fog, you're not sluggish, you're energetically able to lead by example and truly lead and make the right decision the first time, right? Because you're not in that state of brain fog. What I have found to be true, and I'd love to hear your input on this, when the clients come to you and they're under-fueled, do they also have that afternoon slump and they have a hard time making decisions and they go into decision fatigue because they just literally are exhausted and depleted from a physiological standpoint, and it's impacting their mental function?
So I have my business clients think of themselves as you do, as athletes. In fact, eating like an athlete or writing a book called Only for Athletes would be something that everybody would buy, right? Everyone wants to know, what do athletes do? And one of the tricks is to make sure that you've always got food with you. Now, in today's world, with the kind of remote meetings we have, it's not as much of a problem. You may have food available at home, or you're in your office, you're not traveling. But when you are at your office and away from home, when you are on the road and traveling, it is critically important to think of yourself like an athlete. None of my athletes ever go anywhere without food with them, so that they are never caught, say, on a delayed plane or any kind of delay in their day where there's hours that go by that they have no access to food. And so the way that we stay at our best, the way we maximize the exercise we're doing, the way we stay as healthy as we can, is to keep our body, and there's a term called anabolic, in building mode rather than in tearing down mode, which is catabolic. We don't really want to be tearing our body down. And so even if you need to lose fat on your body, you want to still be eating the most that you can eat and be able to lose that fat, not the least that you can eat. These are the tricks of a high performance nutritionist. In the diet world, you're told to eat the least that you can eat, which means that maybe you'll lose weight at the beginning, but your body will adapt in many ways to that very low calorie intake. One is, even if you're still getting to the gym a few times a week, maybe 3 times a week, we know that the rest of your day is more sedentary. You don't move around as much. And those calories that you don't burn, that are unintentional, we call them non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT calories, NEAT fuel burning. We know that that contributes tremendously to our ability to burn calories. And so the goal when you are trying to lose weight is to figure out the most that you can eat, not the least. And then you can stay the most well-fueled and be more prepared for all of the things that come across your desk during the day.
But wait, Susan, that is so counter to what we hear every day. All we hear is deficit, 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 and fad diet, fad diet, fad diet, fad diet. Can you speak to me a little bit about that whole barrage, if you will, that we get of misinformation and that diet culture? How has that impacted us over time from a general health standpoint? And we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but are we operating in such a deficit for so long? Like, what is the timeline once we start fueling properly that we can see an uptick?
So I'll give you my own personal experience that I had during COVID. In fact, my practice kind of quieted down. My husband is a periodontist at the front desk. And I have always been very physically active, always eaten the most that I can eat. I love to eat. And of course, my selections are done well. I'm very particular about the food I eat, but I'm not like a policeman about myself. I love food, but I would always eat plenty and maximized what I could accomplish. During the couple years that I sat at my husband's front desk, because he needed me there, it was kind of a 24/7 all hands on deck to keep the practice going during those bad old days of COVID. And I didn't get to exercise. I was no longer lifting weights. I was getting some good walks in, but not much else. And I really stopped paying attention to what I was eating. And I really dropped my calorie intake tremendously. During that time, I went from having very healthy bones to having osteopenia and nearly osteoporosis. I went, and after my scans, the doctor said, we need to put you on medications for your bones. And I said, no. I know what I've done wrong. Give me a year. And so over this past year, I started powerlifting, not to gain muscle, to repair my bones, to start to build again, and eat all the things, raise my calorie intake by about 600 calories a day. I've lost fat, I've gained muscle, and most excited, I have been able to grow bone. Exactly what doctors tell women my age that you can't do. It's not true. And so imagine if from the time a woman is, say, 30 years old, where she has reached her peak bone mass, she is inundated with this non-evidence-based, all marketing strategy, Madison Avenue hyperbole, that you need to lose weight, and the way to do it is to follow this restrictive diet, whatever the fashion is of the day. Well, by the time you get to 50, you are a great subject for the pharmaceutical companies. and you have lost a tremendous amount of bone. You are going into the last half of your life with a diminished potential quality of life and a loss of independence as you age. Restrictive dieting does not get you the best health outcome over years. It just won't. And if you can understand that, again, figure out what I say, the most that you can eat. Keep eating, keep eating, keep eating, keep eating until you see the scale go beyond about 2 or 3 pounds. That's your maximum. Now drop it by a couple of 100 calories and just keep that up and continue to do your wonderful exercise and keep an active life, and you will have the happiest and healthiest outcome that you can.
And I think that's so important, and something that we talk about a lot with our clients, because they do kind of get caught up on the scale side of things, is that when you do start to fuel appropriately, if you've been underfueled for a while, guess what? The scale does go up. But if you're doing the weight training, you're doing the exercise, you're moving your body, and once your body sort of stabilizes and realizes, hey, I'm not starving anymore, and then the numbers come back down or come to a normal range. And it's not really about the scale numbers, it really is about the body fat composition. And so watching that is more important. Watching the inches, like, is it the abdomen go? Like, we talk a lot about the non-scale victories, if you will. But there's not a lot of education with entrepreneurs, with athletes even, or the general population about, hey, if you're fueling appropriately after many, many years of decrease, you are going to see a temporary, and that's the key word, right? Temporary uptick until your body adjusts and you find that sweet spot so that you can actually improve your health. And so I'm really curious, what is the pushback when that happens? Because you've already told us that, with your executives, what do you tell them? Hey, just try this once for your workout. But what happens when the scale goes up and they're like, wait, hold on, Dr. Susan, I don't know about this. How do you get past that hump?
So, giving them the information up front, right? Knowledge is power. And so I've examined everything that they're doing, and we know they're typically slightly, if not more, dehydrated on a daily basis. They're not eating enough calories. They're not eating enough carbs. They're not eating enough protein. And so our goal is to increase their hydration. If we're then going to increase carbohydrate fuel is stored in the muscle. It goes from after digestion, it turns into glucose. People pretty much know that, a simple sugar. That's how it travels around your body. It is stored in kind of a different form. It's transformed and it's stored as glycogen in the muscle cells. Glycogen holds 3 molecules of water for every molecule of glycogen stored in your muscles. So we know that water has weight. And so when my clients, after a week of doing exactly what I'm asking them to do, I tell them, if you gain weight, that's a sign to me that you're doing everything I'm asking you to do. So you are more fully hydrated, your body is hanging on to more hydration, and you're eating more carbs, and you're storing more fuel in your muscles so that you will be able to push harder, longer every single workout. And so that sign is a positive. That sign is, yes, you are successful in making the changes that I've asked you to make. And then, as you said, Jen, the body will balance out. You will get used to it. But the fun thing is, as you said, pick a pair of pants that you can't button or that don't zip comfortably. You know, so many people switch to, exercise pants for almost years at a time the past few years. We go to put on our old suit pants and they don't zip up. Well, give yourself some grace, let your body adjust, stick to a program, and mostly find movement that you really enjoy, that you can then sustain. And exercise is the key. Movement is the key to the beginning. Of course, what you eat matters for both body weight and health, but if you have been inactive, getting back to your active life will make you feel better much faster. Spoken as a dietitian, I'm telling you, getting back to your activity will make you feel better faster, and then you will be more inclined, more motivated to start to make the nutritional changes that will also support your goals. But the big thing is never underfuel your training. Don't think of your exercise as like a calorie burning moment. Your exercise is the opportunity for joy and fun in the day and to promote lifelong health and wellness.
I absolutely love that you said that. We're big on, and you know this, we've spoken about this, lifelong athletes, like lifelong health and wellness. Like those are very, they may sound like buzzwords to some people, but that truly is the movement of where we're trying to go. We do have to take a brief break, so we will come back in just a few moments. You at home, stick around, and if you missed the action steps that Dr. Kleiner has already given you, some of the easiest things you can do to get to peak performance from a nutrition level is, number one, eat as much as you can for your activity level, not as little. And number two, always carry food with you. That's what athletes do. That's what peak performing entrepreneurs do. We carry our food with us, so we are never in a state of deprivation, because deprivation makes brain fog. It makes us less clear. It makes our workouts less effective. It just makes us less effective as human beings. So if you take nothing else away from this segment, carry your food with you. Eat for your output. Make sure you're fueling enough, and get away from that deprivation mentality. We will be right back after these messages. Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Gaudet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
Hispana de noticias y entretenimiento. Sirviendo a la comunidad hispana por más de 25 años. El mejor contenido para estar informado. Política, comunidad, moda, cultura, entretenimiento, cocina, comercio y más. Obtenga su copia gratis en todas las taquerías Arandas.
Your spine gives your body structure and support. It allows you to bend and move freely, and more importantly, it protects your spinal cord. Your spinal cord is a column of nerves that connect your brain with the rest of the body, allowing you to control your movements. But when your spine gets misaligned due to slips and falls, car accidents, sports injuries, or years of repetitive wear and tear on the body caused by everyday activities, it can cause painful conditions. Stop living in pain. At Lacombe Chiropractic, we can help your back pain, pinched nerves, sore neck, bulging or herniated disc, headaches, or posture problems. We offer chiropractic adjustments, cold laser, decompression, and therapeutic massage. We can even help you reach your weight loss goals by offering the Ideal Weight Loss Program in our office. Often all it takes is just a few treatments for our patients to experience pain relief and better functioning. We'll find the cause and correct it so you can live a better life. If you're worried about those daily aches and pains getting worse or really don't know what to do or who to call, don't wait any longer. Call Lacombe Chiropractic now at 512-645-0420 so you can improve your health and live a better life.
Hey y'all, Fathead here with Fathead Spices. My goal is to give you Texas-made spices, rubs, and food products for all your events. Whether it's outdoor, indoor, or just hanging out at the deer lease, we got you covered. We're proud of our customer service. We want to help you make your food better. One thing's for sure, y'all, life's short, spice it up.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. If you are just now tuning in, you're going to want to go to NowMedia.tv and check out the first segment because we are in studio today with Dr. Susan Kleiner. And Dr. Kleiner is an expert in nutrition and human performance, peak human performance, both from athletes to entrepreneurs and also general population. And she has been giving us a lot of input. She's debunked the diet myth, the fad diet myths. She's talked about how we can actually improve our performance in the gym and in our businesses by fueling our output. And that's something that we talk about a lot. And so you're not going to want to miss that. Go ahead and check that first segment if you haven't already and you're just tuning in. But without further ado, I'm going to bring her right back in because we are having such an amazing conversation about the role of nutrition, but also movement in general health. And then, of course, peak performance so that we can be the absolute best performing human being in every endeavor so that we can just maximize everything we do during the day. Dr. Susan, welcome back.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about fueling for our output. We've talked about making sure that we're eating the most that we can for the output that we're doing, whether it's in the workout, in the gym, whether it's in our business, whether it's in our general life. We've talked about the role of exercise and how important it is to get moving because that has an immediate impact on our energy, on how we feel, on our joy, it brings our stress down. Now I want to kind of shift gears because I know that you have moved a little bit away from the peak performance side and more towards the women's health side of things. And I think that that's a movement that doesn't get enough conversation stimulated around it. So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing now and how important it is for us to be fueling ourselves to have the adequate movement and nutrition just for general health, especially as women and girls.
Oh, it's great to have this opportunity. I think one of the things that is probably the most disconcerting for people like you and me who are professionals trying to guide clients is that there really isn't a lot of good information that is research-based, scientifically studied, evidence-based data that we can use to guide our female patients or clients. There has been a huge lack of research on women and girls when it comes to human health and performance. I found myself going into the study of peak performance because I've always believed, and I'm now certain, that by studying the extremes, we start to understand how to improve normal health for the average person. Because when we study an average healthy population of people, any kind of improvement is too hard to measure to a statistical significance. But when we study extremes, we can see that change and recognize it as statistically significant. And so that's what really drew me to the science of nutrition and exercise. Today, we look at that body of evidence and say, well, most of it's on men and boys.
Yep.
There isn't that much on women and girls. And so we have, I'd say in the last half a dozen years, there certainly has been through a huge hue and cry from the female population saying, we need this data. It is improving, but it still is narrow and small. And so we're still navigating what really do women need. And so most importantly, I know you do this as well as we really listen to our clients. We listen to what their bodies are telling them, what they're finding out about their own, responses to things that they're doing. And we learn a lot from that.
Absolutely. And so we are gaining in that body of research. But, one of the things that comes up a lot, that I hear a lot, especially from a female population, is, okay, Jen, I hear you tell me I need to lift weights, right? This is the biggest one. We know that if we're not lifting weights as we age, we lose 2% of our strength each year, and that adds up to the point where we're frail. We are going to have balance issues. We're going to have other issues. You're going to have bone density issues, a whole lot of other health concerns. But Jen, I don't want to exercise. I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to bulk up. I don't want man arms. And that's frankly not true. We know that's not true. But how are you navigating those concerns as you're now working in this general population space?
Again, I try and educate my clients, and really, I think I have a lot of trust because they actually know I've worked with anabolic steroid using athletes. And so I'm speaking from true experience, not personal experience, but personal experience in working with the athletes who have, been using anabolic steroids, both males and females. That was where my original research was in the 1980s. And I continued in the area of strength and power for several decades, and I've written books about it. So what we know about women is that it is highly unlikely for most women to bulk up. You will perhaps be lucky enough to start to see some shape. You'll certainly get toned, not, so you're not, you don't have those flabby arms, but it is the rare exception of a woman who has enough testosterone production in her body to bulk up. It's just not possible. It's not part of our hormonal physiology to be able to do that, especially as we start to get older. And so, but the flip side is that we have still plenty of opportunity and plenty of wellness in our bodies to respond positively to progressive resistance training or some kind of weightlifting. Our muscles will become stronger and more toned. We will stay more symmetrical in our strength, and that is what affects balance so much. It will also have an incredible impact on your bones because bones are not static. Bones don't just hang out and stay the way they are. Bones are just like every other tissue in your body. They remodel constantly. They break down and build up and break down and build up. And the way that they build up, instead of continuing to break down, is by having some kind of stressor pulling. We think of it as pushing, but it's actually pulling against your bones. And that's the connective tissues and your muscles. And so when your muscles are working to lift something that's heavy or push against a platform, say if you're trying to do some kind of push-up, that's when your bone says, aha, I have to build back up again. But if you're not doing that, as we age, you are losing bone, and the remodeling just does not happen in any appreciable amount. You are losing, but not gaining back, not remodeling back. And so weightlifting, progressive resistance training, lifting, 2-pound cans of vegetables, I don't care what you're doing, carrying your groceries up the steps, whatever it is that you're doing on a very regular basis, that's what will help you maintain your bones. And as I said in the first segment, believe it or not, you can even gain bone.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to say, you mentioned some activities of daily living, carrying your groceries up the step. I think the other misconception that people have is, well, I'm doing biking, I'm on a stationary bike. Well, I think it's load bearing is the most important key for our bone mineral density. And so, even if that's their choice for cardio, they like the bike or they like something that's not really load bearing, it's so critically important that we use all of our muscles and that we have that resistance, because like you said, it's use it or lose it. Our bone density is use it or lose it. Our muscle strength is use it or lose it. All of that applies. And I think if you're at home and you're listening, Dr. Susan says something very important, because this is not widely known. We always hear that you only lose bone mineral density and that you can't actually gain it back. But she has evidence, even with her own story, that if you do your resistance training, if you do progressively load those bones, load that tissue, you can build. But the key part is you have to also be consuming those minerals so that it can remineralize your bones. So talk about how important it is to combine that plus the accurate diet. Like, a lot of people are like, yeah, Jen, I don't like to eat green. And I'm like, great, do what you need to do to supplement to make sure you're getting the minerals and vitamins that you need is very important. So since we have you here, I would love to hear it from the expert in nutrition. Like, what is it that we actually need and how can we get it in a way that's bioavailable so that we can maintain our best health?
So there's a host of things that we understand. First and foremost is enough calories, right? So you have to be able to fuel that exercise that you're doing, fuel all your energy needs for the rest of the day, and leave some left over. So if you're going to grow new bone, there's enough energy to do that. That takes energy. So enough calories. Number 2 is enough protein. We don't really talk about protein. We always think calcium and vitamin D. Well, you can't grow new tissue. You can't grow new bone without enough protein. And protein is critical as long as you're alive. And what we know is that most people are not consuming enough protein. It's an old story from really when I started in this field that we said, oh, Americans eat plenty of protein, they don't need any more. Well, if you're trying to reach optimal levels, not just enough so you don't become protein deficient, there is a real gulf between those numbers. And so the easy way to think about it is really about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, if you are very heavy, you may not need quite that much protein because it really is associated with how much muscle you have. But for a normal weight person, that's a really good ballpark to go with. It could be a little less. Think about at every meal and snack, let's say you have 5, combination of meal and snack throughout the day, that you have protein every single time you eat. About what we would say is the size of a deck of cards, the size of the palm of your hand, that much protein. If you're eating vegetable protein, and it's, let's say, beans, it's going to take a 1.5 cups of beans to get you the same amount of protein in about 4 ounces of an animal-rich protein. So figure out what you need and how you will distribute that throughout the day. Certainly carbohydrate. That's what fuels your exercise. In fact, that specifically fuels weightlifting or weight training, resistance training. It is what we call high intensity, very short duration power kind of movement. And only carbohydrate fuels that kind of movement. And so you must have enough carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is also required for a cascade of biochemical events to occur, so you have the right hormones available so that you can be making bone. Of course, your bone building minerals, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, boron, all of those are easily available in dairy products, but if you are not eating dairy, focus on your other sort of dark green leafy vegetables, certainly legumes, other sources of these nutrients, and perhaps supplementing. Vitamin D, absolutely 100% essential. And one other thing that is quite interesting, an area of research that has really blossomed in the past 20 years, is a compound called creatine. So I don't know if you've ever talked about creatine, Jen.
We haven't talked about it on the show, but please enlighten our viewers because I'm on the creatine bandwagon myself.
So creatine is a combination of a couple of amino acids. It is made naturally in the body, but we don't make very much of it. In our diets, because we don't eat pounds of meat, and it is primarily consumed through animal products, animal tissue product, we don't get as much creatine as the body might benefit from. We first found the benefits of creatine in athletic performance research, finding that if we supplemented with creatine, athletes could work out harder for a little longer, doing strength and power kinds of exercise, and it would enhance muscle building. It is absolutely a performance enhancing supplement. It has more research and more subjects worldwide over 30 some years than many drugs. So it is highly researched with nearly no side effects at all. And it is an extremely popular supplement in the athletic performance world. But what has happened since is much more exciting, and that is the medical research on creatine. And it is used in infants who have an inability to build muscle, or have various, in adults or other people who have various dystrophies, muscle dystrophies, where their muscles are breaking down. It has been found to be important in brain health, in reproductive health, and in bone health, in just about every system in the body, any cell that uses energy, because creatine allows the development of an energy vessel, creatine phosphate, and that allows for the transfer of high energy bonds. And so any cell in your body that actually metabolizes energy can benefit from creatine. So what do we know? We know that there's a threshold in the body when it comes to muscle building, and there's only so much that can be stored in the muscles. And so people take either a loading dose over a week of 20 grams a day for 5 days, split into 4 different doses, or they take a sort of a maintenance dose of 3 to 5 grams daily. And after a month, they reach the same point as the people who load. But when it comes to understanding the brain function, or bone mineral metabolism, bone building, or reproductive function, or all these other areas, we're still not 100% certain what the dosage is. We're looking into it. Many people with age have found that supplementing just with the standard 5 grams a day of creatine, they notice a benefit to memory function. I've been taking it forever, ever since I learned about it over 30 years ago in the early days of the research, but I have increased my dosage for my bone mineral health, up to, based on my body weight, to about 7 grams a day. It may not be enough. We probably need more, but we don't really know yet. So I'm kind of, just moderating. Whether or not that helped me, I don't know, because I made sure I was doing a lot of things right, and that's how I grew bone.
And so from all of this, because we do unfortunately have to wrap this shortly, from all of this, we have to consume everything that we need for health. So we can't just pick and choose what we want in our body. Our body has real needs. And if we're not going to eat all of the food groups, for example, we need to make sure that we're finding other foods that are going to make sure we have everything that we need for bone health, for all of our tissues health, for peak performance. And I really like that you brought in, some of the food groups that most people avoid. Like, a lot of people have a sensitivity to dairy, or they from their dietary their restrictive diet, they've avoided it. And you've given some really good other options so that people can get that. So we talk about dark leafy greens all the time. We talk about it for hormonal health. We talk about it from a vitamin and mineral standpoint and a general health. And for those people who are like nothing green and you're not dairy, then know that you might want to get tested and know where your deficiencies are so that you can supplement those. I think that's very key. In today's world, we have a lot of people with a lot of different reasons for not eating certain products. And so what I'm hearing, Dr. Susan, and correct me if I'm wrong, is make sure you have all the building blocks you need for optimal health and for peak performance. And the best way to do that might be to have a conversation with someone such as yourself, a nutritionist, somebody who can run those panels for you, somebody who can help you and guide you with your lifestyle so that you can do that. And so if somebody wanted to reach out to you for a resource, to learn more, to get some of the research, or to kind of follow you in some of the things that you're doing, because I know you're doing big things. You have amazing books. I have your book. And you have a podcast, I believe, as well. How are some of the ways that people can learn more about this or get in touch with you?
So probably, quick things are my books, The New Power Eating and The Good Mood Diet. Those are great resources. My website is drskleiner.com, drskleiner.com. You can find me on Facebook. It's Dr. Susan Kleiner. On Instagram, you'll see all my bread that I bake. I'm at Power Eat, and you can see my website scrolling by there. So those are the best ways, certainly, to reach me. And my email address is susan@drskleiner.com. I just want to comment on what you just said. People ask me all the time, well, is it okay? Should I be using supplements? This is what I say. Eat food when you can, supplement when you must. There are certain things that we all can't get in from food. There are many reasons why we may not be absorbing, or we may have to eliminate foods from our diet for multitudes of reasons. Eat food when you can, supplement when you must.
I absolutely concur with that sentiment. We've had many conversations about this. And so for you at home, Dr. Susan has let us have so many gems of knowledge. Please check out her book. I reference her book regularly with my clients as well. And it's very important that we take care of ourselves, because if we're not adequately fueling ourselves, if we're not moving our body and we're not peak performing, then we're not really taking care of our health, and we cannot take care of our businesses, of our teams, of our families if we are not indeed healthy. So thank you so much again, Dr. Susan, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jen. Love doing it.
Absolutely. And you, yes, you at home, I am speaking to you now. Dr. Kleiner gave us a couple of amazing action steps. So if you want to move towards peak performance and be the absolute best performing human being that you can be in your business, in your life, start by eating enough calories. She said that multiple times. Many of us are in deficit. We're not actually fueling our output, whether it's our physical output, our mental output, healing, process, many of us are not eating enough. And so make sure you're consuming enough calories. Make sure you're getting everything the body needs, enough protein. And she gave us a good kind of formula, a gram of protein for our body weight. So start thinking about having protein with your meals, because if you are not having protein with your meals and your snack, you might be deficient. And that's key for everything in peak performance. So eat enough calories, make sure you're getting enough carbohydrates, because that's what's fueling our output. Our brains run on glucose, our muscles run on glucose. That's what fuels our body. And guess what, guys? Glucose is sugar, in case you didn't know. And that comes from consuming carbohydrates. And so make sure we're getting enough calories, we're getting enough protein, enough carbohydrates to fuel our output. And then last but not least, if we are restrictive in any food group, make sure that we are getting the nutrition that we need, the micronutrients that we need, so that we can peak perform. Because if any of that is off and our health is off, we don't think clearly, we have brain fog, we're less energetic, and so we don't necessarily make the best decision the right time first. We're maybe not as quick with our speed of implementation, and our business and our lives are going to suffer. So your action steps: get on your nutrition, get your body moving. If you haven't, you heard her say it here, move in whatever way makes sense to you. If it's dance, then it's dance. If it's running, it's running. If it's just playing with the kids, whatever that looks like to you, so that you can consistently get your movement in, is so critically important, because we are indeed business athletes. If we are an entrepreneur and an executive, we have to pretty much lead the team. Mentally, physically, emotionally, the whole 9 yards. And so that's the truth behind the business. We have to take care of ourselves first. We have to make sure we're healthy and we're peak performing first, so that our business can get to the next level. That is your takeaway. You have a slew of action steps to take. I encourage you to do it right now, today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Take action on one thing you heard, so that you can get that ball moving and get yourself to the next level. All good things do come to an end. If you'd like to learn more, I would love to hear from you. You can always email me, jengaudet@jengaudetcoaching.com. Reach out. I appreciate your feedback. But until next time, we will go have an amazing day. Win today, win this week, and we'll see you same time, same station next week.
This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Are you considering selling? More than likely, what is the most expensive investment? Your home? Now or in the near future? Before you throw away precious equity down the drain and live to regret it, I'd like to share with you 5 reasons why you need to stage your space, whether living in it or selling it vacant. Hello, I'm Kat Trelinos, President, Master Staging Professional, and CEO of Ta-Da by Kat Next Level Staging and Design. Number 1, you need to stage because you'll make more money. According to the National Association of Realtors, more than 5 to 20% more staged. Number 2, so buyers can visualize the staged property as their next home. Stage because, number 3, not staging will only help sell your competition stage homes. Successful realtors know that the key to competing is professional staging, because it creates great online presentations, drives buyer traffic to the home, and brings the highest offers. Number 4, stage because it makes the home seem larger, when strategic placement and flow are created with proper staging. And number 5, stage because then you can relax, knowing you've done everything possible to get a quick sale, not leave any money on the table. Let our award-winning team bring the magic of next level staging to your property today. Be prepared to be ta-da'd. You'll be glad you did.
This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
In today's episode of Pain Diaries, we have a special guest, Dr. Darren Mitchell. He's a chiropractor offering many types of solutions to spine and joint problems. He also provides nutritional fixes. Also, we have a few other important guests that will discuss all we need to know about insurance coverage, and will also feature medical